Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode of the Dan Dawson Show. So, one of the big problems in America, right, is the Democrat push, the liberal, the socialist, the far left, whatever, right? Their push towards getting rid of bail reform and prisons. Remember, in New York, they want to shut down Rikers Island, where the most violent, horrible criminals are held. So I'm going to present this series of articles, right, and show you how they're all interconnected. And now it's coming out with this Wisconsin Christmas Parade Massacre. So let's start with the first article. Squad rep Talib reeled over bill that would empty federal prisons in 10 years. Talib admitted that some people belong behind bars and that not everyone can be rehabilitated. Let's go down, hold up. This is by Jessica Chasmar for Fox News. Representative Rashida Talib, Democrat from Michigan, revealed in a new interview, perhaps unwittingly, that she doesn't necessarily support the details in a bill she endorsed last year that would abolish federal prisons over the course of the next 10 years, admitting that there are some people who legitimately belong behind bars. Well, no duh. So, during an interview Monday with Axios reporter Jonathan Swan, Talib was pressed on her support of the Breathe Act, which calls for the Department of Justice and the Department of Health and Human Services to create a roadmap for prison abolition. Think about that. So you have murderers, rapists, all these dangerous serial killers, right? Gang members that she wants released into your cities and your streets, because remember, the squad has private security. So they're not going to be in their communities. They're going to be in yours. They don't have to worry with them, including the full decarceration of federal detention facilities within 10 years. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't have a AR-15 with a 100-round drum, you might want to get one, because remember, at the same time they're calling for this, they're calling for abolishing the police. They're turning this place into a war zone. It's going to look no better than Somalia, which, Ilhan and Omar probably likes. And a moratorium on all new federal prison, jail, immigrant, and youth detention construction. This always gets me about these snide-looking, just horrible people. Look at them. You can see the evil radiating off of them. Quote, to what extent have you wrestled with releasing any potential downsides of releasing into society every single person who is currently in a federal prison? Swan asked the Congresswoman. Quote, I think that everyone's like, oh my God, we're just going to release everybody, Talib said. Quote, that's not what and Swan cut her off. Swan fired back real quick. He goes, that's what the act says. Swan fired back. Quote, yeah, but did you see how many people are mentally ill that are in prison right now? Talib argued. So just to put this in there, just because they're mentally ill, or because they have a drug addiction, does not mean they can't harm you. Does not mean there's not sexual predators. Does not mean they're not murderers. Okay, so people need to get that straight. Not every mentally ill person is like your Aunt Susie, who likes collecting dolls and has 1 million of them. Or your eccentric Uncle Howard. You get it? No, I know, Swan said, but the act you endorsed actually says release everyone in 10 years. They're like human traffickers, child sex predators. Do you mean that you don't actually support that because you endorsed this bill? And like I said, murderers and all kind of stuff. Talib continued to argue that many prisoners are mentally ill or struggling with substance abuse issues, and that those people should be rehabilitated instead of incarcerated. Hey, how about this thought? Maybe they should try to be rehabilitated while in incarceration. And if it doesn't work, they don't get out. How's that work? Quote, why aren't you asking me about them? She asked one. You're asking me about the human traffickers and others that should be that should be able to be held accountable. Swan goes on, what I'm trying to understand is your proposal is so sweeping, Swan said, it does release everyone. Oh yeah, within 10 years, Talib responded. Obviously, there's a process of looking at how we can get away from mass incarceration and move toward care first. Do you believe that there are still categories of people who should be behind bars, Swan asked. They are absolutely, Talib answered. I don't think there's any rehabilitation happening right now for those who might actually have mental health issues. See, they keep going back to mental health issues. Just because you have a mental health issue doesn't mean you're not a bad person, doesn't mean you can't commit a crime. Do you think all people can be rehabilitated, Swan asked. I don't think so. I've been very clear about that, Talib replied. I would have to look at every case individually and figure all that out, she added later. Everyone in jail is not the same. Talib's comments, oh my God, look at these three. Oh my, just evil personified. Talib's comments caught the attention of Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican from South Carolina, who fired off a tweet thread saying the Congresswoman's proposal is a more radical implementation of defund the police. Oddly enough, Congresswoman Talib has had a tough time convincing Congress to follow her lead on emptying prisons, the senator wrote. However, the Taliban jumped all over this idea. When they took over Afghanistan, the first thing they did was empty all the prisons, including releasing terrorists. What could go wrong, he asked. And why didn't the media bring up this proposal during the 2020 presidential campaign? Let's go to the next one. Oops, my bad. All righty, this is also from Fox News. It's one of the few sources I actually find reliable and stuff like this, and one of the few sources that cover it. So all three of these are from Fox News. AOC, other hash Dems, pressed New York City prosecutors on excessive bail for prisoners. Now, this is going to tie in really, really closely to the Wisconsin Christmas Massacre. Democrats warned that federal intervention may be necessary. Really? Sam Dorman from Fox News. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee are demanding more answers from New York City's district attorneys, suggesting that excessive bail and other factors are keeping prisoners in jail longer than necessary. Quote, we have grave concerns that excessive bail amounts are leading to unnecessary pretrial detention and contributing to a humanitarian crisis in New York City's jail system, particularly on Rikers Island, like I said before, where the most violent of violent criminals are kept. This is not somebody who stole candy from the store. These are gangbangers, murderers, rapists, arsonists. Said Reps Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat from New York, and Jamie Raskin, Democrat from Maryland, and Carolyn Maloney, Democrat from New York. Who's that Maloney? Oh my God, she looks like the female version of the emperor. Feel the full power of the dark side. In Monday's letter, the members requested briefings from the DAs of the Bronx, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Richmond County, and Queens. They also requested, quote, new bail hearings for and consent to the release of all detainees who are charged with misdemeanors or nonviolent felonies, as well as those who face significant health risks due to the coronavirus. Isn't it funny? So understand, when you're going through the criminal process, right? Usually most people plead down out of felonies and violent offenses and plead to something less. It happens all the time. But isn't it amazing how they're using the coronavirus for everything? More totalitarian policies, coronavirus. Their letter warned that, quote, if these conditions are not addressed, federal intervention may be necessary to protect detainees from additional harm. Now, That's a very bold statement with what they said. So understand, they're not just going to stop at New York. New York and California are just the two easiest targets, because once you get into Florida and Texas, you're going to have a harder time. So this is where they're starting that out, to build a case to give them some backup. So House Democrats pointed to New York Times reporting that more than 3/4 of the nearly 6,000 people in custody at Rikers had yet to be tried. High bail amounts, the member said, lead to a two-tiered system of justice, with those who can afford bail being able to escape the inhumane conditions at pretrial detention facilities such as Rikers Island, while those who cannot afford bail are forced to remain. Overall, crime rose by almost 3% in September 2021 compared to September 2020, and robberies increased by 6%, according to New York Police Department data. The city saw an 11.2 increase of overall index in crime October 2021 when compared to the same month last year. Murders and shooting incidents decreased slightly, with the total number of gun arrests increased 13.9%. The letter comes amid a broader push to reform various aspects of the criminal justice system. The issue resurfaced again on Monday as the public learned about Darrell Brooks, the man suspected of driving an SUV into a parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin this weekend. Brooks was reportedly released from jail earlier this month with what Milwaukee County District Attorney John Chisholm called inappropriately low bail recommendation. Brooks has multiple pending cases in Milwaukee County, including a 2020 case involving 2 counts of second-degree reckless endangering and being a felon in possession of a firearm, according to a spokesman for Chisholm County. Well, looky here. So here's what we have. I'll tell you. And it shows here basically 10,000 bells reduced to 7,500, then 500. So the very systems they're propagating led to, and I would say caused, the situation where kids died, grandmothers died, 50 people run over, I think it's up to 7 dead now. And they're still at it. Now, if you want your city to turn into that, or the place where you live to live like that, keep voting for these leftist ideas and their no bail policies. They did it in Seattle, crime went through the roof. Now Seattle is starting to vote in Republicans. Seattle, who hadn't had a Republican on the city council for 46 years. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So when they're talking this no bail stuff, hopefully, and abolishing prisons and abolishing the police, could you imagine what that looks like? Can you imagine? Get armed, get a gun, get training, because you're going to need it. Because this stuff is actually happening. Actually happening. They're making people's lives more dangerous. They're putting your mothers, your grandmothers, your wife, your sisters, your daughters, your sons, your brothers, your cousins, your fathers in danger. Your husbands, everybody's in danger. And they want to keep pushing. But remember, the people pushing this have private security. Do you have private security? No, you're your own first responder. So I just wanted to throw that up there for everybody. Like, subscribe, share. And as always, do what you got to do.